stepping to the light. It's a brand new sight. The world opens wide with Alessandro by my side. Cloud native path will take no mistake. It's a break from the norm. Let's explore new horizons evermore. Welcome to my journey episode, talking tech on the open road. Alessandro's tales untold. Watch the magic, watch it unfold.
Welcome back, everyone, to another My Journey episode where we explore the journeys of cloud native pioneers and community builders. I'm your host, Steve Wade, and today we're joined by someone who, for me, embodies the beautiful intersection of scientific curiosity and cloud native innovation. So today's guest is Alessandro Vozza. He's a CNCF ambassador and community leader who's been instrumental in shaping the Dutch cloud native landscape. And he's got a super interesting background where he was a published chemist and he went on to organize the first ever KCD in Amsterdam. And now I understand is pursuing a degree in astrophysics while also pioneering a new startup. So his journey, a bit like mine, is a testament to like diverse paths leading to cloud native excellence. So Alessandro, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. My pleasure to be here and share a bit about me.
Yeah, so
let's see how it goes.
Yeah, let's start right back at the beginning, right? So your academic journey began in chemistry, right? Where
Yep.
you told me that you published some scientific papers, and
Yeah, that's
now
actually.
Go on.
Sorry. Go ahead.
And now you're pursuing a career in astrophysics, or a degree, sorry, in astrophysics. So kind of what drove your passions for both kind of science moving forward, obviously, and previously, and then technology? Because that's an interesting balance, right?
Yeah. Well, so I'll try to keep it short. It's my origin story, right? So I'm from kind of remote, or well, it's a town called Taranto in Puglia, which is the southeast of Italy. I know people always ask me where in Italy are you from? Well, I'm from this place. It's the heel of the boot, right? So Italy is a boot, so it's really down there. So I was born there, and I was always fascinated by science. Studied chemistry as an undergrad, in the high school. I studied chemistry. I always wanted to be a scientist, a professor. So when I moved to the north part of Italy, so I moved to a town called Ferrara. That was 1998, and I was also always around computers, right? So my big brother, 4 years older than me, we were running one of the first BBS in my own town. We had the first Commodore 64 when I was probably 6 or 7, and he was more like 12. We went through the old evolution of computing, right? So we remember, and I'm very glad I was born at that time when computing was born, and there was a lot of things to do and a lot of excitement about what computers could bring to our life. But I had this inspiration. My aspiration was to become a chemistry professor, right? So I moved to the north. I started my degree in chemistry, and I remember there was this. So as a chemist, you have to learn Fortran, right? So for some reason, Fortran is still the scientific language par excellence, right? So the every scientist has to know some Fortran. So there was this lab. There was this room full of computers with mostly Windows 3.11 or some
Wow.
MS-DOS and stuff like that. And nothing was working, right? So we could not learn Fortran on that stuff. So by myself, by my own ideation, I took the biggest computer. Actually, I think I moved some RAM around and I made it a bit more beefed up. I downloaded Linux because, of course, the only internet connection was at the university, right? So I don't know. I think it was Slackware 0.9 or 0.8 over 24 floppy disks. So I went to buy this floppy disk, I barred them, and then I installed this server, which became kind of the server for everybody else to connect to, download the Fortran programs, compile. And my professor was very, very pleased by that, right? So she could finally teach the class to the rest of the students. But the IT department of the university wasn't as pleased because, of course, I had to figure out all the network settings and I have to connect a bunch of stuff. So they came down one day and they found me tinkering around the lab. And instead of kicking me out of the university, they should have done. They made me sysadmin of the chemistry department. So that's where I really started informally to work with computers. And of course, like I became the star of the department because every professor was looking for me to fix their computer. I started also building supercomputer cluster, which are ridiculous by today's standards, but we were, and of course, I was always fascinated by Linux and open source. We were running the Linux user group in the town of Ferrara. I mean, we were, we owned one of the few DVDs in town with Linux. There was, remember there was a time when they were distributing Linux on discs and DVDs. And we were asking everybody to bring their PC or laptop, and then we would replace Windows with Linux. So that was I was really, really into, and still I am into open source. At the time, of course, Microsoft was the evil empire, and we petitioned the city council to move from Office to Open Office and so on. So and that brought me very close to Linux open source, and it was my hobby, right? So, and then when I moved to the Netherlands, done when I was done with my PhD, I had to find a job, and then I decided, faithfully, of course, to change career completely and went into IT. So that's how I started, right? So and I think I also this is what I also suggest to everybody, to my own kids as well, right? So don't study computer science. I mean, don't study what you want to do later in life. Study something else, right? So there's always a time to learn new skills, but get a background that is a bit different from what you want to do. My background in science and chemistry, actually, I really cherish it, and I wouldn't change it with anything else, because it gives you discipline in thinking, like scientific method. It's all about thinking logically, and that helps not only, of course, in my current career, but in life in general.
Yeah.
Makes me so in chemistry, I don't know if you know, but if you don't document everything you do, you have a lab journal, right? So it's like now I think it's
we
more
don't
like
have journals
electronic,
in IT.
but as a chemist, you must, because somebody else has to replicate your finding. So you must document everything you do, and that kind of stuck with me. So I still have a journal where I write everything, like a formula, right? So I add a bit of now instead of chemicals, I add a bit of GitOps there and a bit of Kubernetes there. But that's how it gives you this discipline of mind.
So
And I'm really glad I came this way to what I do now.
So did you move to Amsterdam for your PhD or after your PhD?
Yeah. Yes. Of course, I met my now ex-wife in Italy, and then we moved to the Netherlands to get my PhD in chemistry. Last 4 years, and then I started my career there. Yeah.
So you said I know you have an interesting story about this move to Amsterdam for your PhD. Like, would you be willing to share that experience with us?
Yeah. So, well, I moved to get my PhD. It was I didn't finish my PhD, so I refrained to call myself a PhD because I can't.
Okay.
But I did publish papers. It was very interesting topics, and I'm happy to discuss science with anybody that comes along. But it's a long time ago. It's actually 20 years ago. So that's science moved on as well. So what I was doing
Yeah.
20 years ago now it's common.
Probably
It's
as much
almost
as the cloud
trivial.
native ecosystem as well, right? That's moved on as well.
Yeah. Well, I I changed career also because I felt science in general, chemistry was a bit too slow, right? So chemistry in particular is a really established discipline, right? So there's nothing crazy new all the time like is in cloud native, right? So in the cloud. So I felt a bit like I need a bit more excitement in my job instead of just doing the same thing over and over. So one thing I appreciated, like the speed of innovation is in my current job, of course. But I always look at science, and of course, there's science is a very vast topic. Always had my interest around physics and astrophysics, and I'm not gonna change, but I would like to get finally studying um, for a degree in astrophysics. But I think it might take some time actually. I'm seeing myself like retiring and then finally finishing
That's cool. That's a
all
good
the required. But
it's a good long-term goal, right? We talk about like
yeah,
I always talk to people about like the now, next, and later. So that's like a later
there's
goal.
always
But
there's always
the
something next.
yeah,
But
for sure.
but yeah, it's I love thinking about the universe because it gives you perspective, right? So it gives you like a
Yeah, it does.
there are problems on this planet which are really important for sure, but it pales in comparison to what goes on at the cosmic scale. So that's it gives you
That's true.
a bit of fresh air and a more perspective of what's going on.
Yeah,
So
so
I love to think in things terms.
how would you say your scientific background kind of influences your approach to cloud native tech and then kind of problem solving in general?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. It's all I do. Analyze problem. It is the engineering mindset. No problem is too big to be solved, right? So there is nothing with some ingenuity and enough time and effort that mankind and the human mind cannot solve. So that's it's always you always start from a place where we just have to break it down, right? So whatever problem there is, you break it down, and if it feels like it's too much, you haven't break it down enough, right? So that's
Yeah.
only the only reason is that, and this is always guiding me when I approach any problem. Okay, calm down. First thing is take a deep breath and start to chip away at the problem, right? So
Yeah.
get things done by small increment, and that's how science works. Right? So of course, we remember the big innovation in science, the big scientists, but science is mostly moved forward by the anonymous physicist and science and chemist and scientist that does a little thing, and
Yeah, definitely.
I wish only to be one of them, right? One of those.
So before we go too much into kind of cloud native and community stuff, like when did you make this transition? Like when did you say, you know what, I'm done with chemistry and physics for a bit and I want to kind of pivot into IT full time? Like when was that and kind of what made that decision for you?
Yeah, there's also kind of fate in a way. So I finished my studies in 2008, and no, around November, October, so it was the big crisis, a really big one. So if you remember, literally like no one was hiring anyone. It was like a housing market crash. It was brutal, and but the only sector that was still hiring, of course, was IT and computers. And after a while, I couldn't find any job in chemistry. Then I say, you know what? I'm gonna rewrite my CV completely from scratch And I'm not gonna lie, but I'm gonna just put all the hobby open source project I've been contributing, and I'm just gonna enumerate my skills, right? So no practical experience. In in the space of 3 days, I got a lot of offers already. So it was clearly the right decision, and I never looked back, right? So that was it. Might have been if I had, if it was a different year or different time, I would end up differently. But in a way, like I turned this big drama of the global financial crisis into into an opportunity for me to reinvent myself. And
Hey,
that's yeah,
hey, Shiva,
that's
nice to see you.
yeah, issue. Yeah.
S- that's
So
great,
I
right?
suggest this to everybody. Like, don't get don't take yourself for granted. Like, there's always something else you can do. It's never the end of the road.
Definitely.
Uh, it's always find your inner passion. Now I'm very lucky. I think I reached perfect ikigai, right? So I don't know if you know ikigai, right? So
Yeah,
it's
I do.
something I really like to do. I'm pretty decent at it. I'm not say good, but I think I have some chops. But people pay me for, and it's kind of good for the world. We'll talk about environmental sustainability later. But yeah, it's something that I also feel like there's a purpose in what I do, right? So something
Definitely.
more than just me.
Yeah, for sure. So you've been organizing the Dutch cloud native community now for about 8 years, I think, and you
Yep,
became a
yeah, and
CNCF ambassador in kind of 2018. So what motivated you to take on these kind of community leadership roles?
yeah, that's another story right there. So I was working. I moved from chemistry to IT, and then I was in between jobs, 2011, and I decided, well, I was literally like a couple of months on the bench, right? So really not much to do, and I said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna start this meetup thing. And it was 2011, right? So it was right after the first DevOps conference, DevOps Days in Ghent. I said, okay, let me start DevOps Meetup Amsterdam because nobody did it before, so why not? And I started organizing DevOps Amsterdam, which now is also pretty big, and we started doing the first DevOps days. And then I thought, like, okay, this is cool. I can do this. Maybe I'm not the best coder, right? So I don't program. I cannot make a big code contribution, but I can organize meetups. That's my thing. That's my angle. That's needed, right? So I remember the first DevOps meetup. We were probably 25 in a room. 2011, right? So that's again, like it feels like
It feels like a
ages
lifetime
ago.
ago.
Yeah, but in fact, like it was the beginning of my like contribution to open to communities, and I kind of like it, right? So I had to explain to my then wife where I was going every night because because it felt like a little chicken. But that I frame this as my thing, right? So organizing communities. Then DevOps Meetup, DevOps Days Amsterdam, moved to OpenStack. There was a thing at the time, right? So private cloud, open source, amazing. I thought, okay, this is me. This is what I want to do. There was no Kubernetes at the time, right? So there was no barely Docker came out when I was organizing the OpenStack meetup. Started working at Red Hat. Then when Kubernetes came out, I think about a year after the actual announcement, I decided to team up with other people and organizing the Kubernetes meetup Amsterdam first, of course, and then the Netherlands. Netherlands is a pretty small country, so it's easy to organize for the whole country. That was 2016. I never looked back again. Like I loved so much the project. I thought it was so technically good, but also the community was really there. Then I said, okay, that's it. I mean, forget OpenStack. I really like it. I
All
mean,
in.
it's cool, but enough Python for a lifetime. And then I said, and then I went all in Kubernetes meetup in the community, and it picked up very fast, very quickly. We are now 4,000 people. We've been organizing meetups every month. Like I don't know, we lost count, but we are pretty consistent in organizing meetups every month, and it's pretty cool. And I don't see myself retiring anytime soon. I wish other organizer. I'm trying to transmit to other people like how cool is it, right?
Hmm.
So you organize this, and people call you, like companies call you and say, "Hey, can we have a meetup in our office?" And kind of puts you on the map
Yeah,
as the organizer, the person that can make it happen. And I'm trying to transmit to new people, and there is of course like there's a whole team behind it. It's not just me anymore. But the I try to transmit the fact that hey, it's also it has also very good impact on your career.
definitely.
It's time you put in, you get it back eventually,
Yeah,
and it's the right thing to do. I mean, it's cool. Just without meetups, without communities, local communities, the whole CNCF thing probably would have been much smaller, right? So we are the backbone. We are the foot on the
definitely.
ground for for the KubeCon, of course, and I say hi to all my friends in Salt Lake City. But that
Same.
happens also because there's a army of organizers that do their job.
So Shiver asks, yeah, there's meetups planned in the Nordics. I don't know where geographically which country in the Nordics you're in, but I'm almost certain that there'll be either a meetup or some kind of Kubernetes community days. There was
Yeah.
KubeCon Copenhagen in Denmark a couple of years ago.
That was good. Actually, so about that, there's in Oslo, there's gonna be Cloud Native Day. My friend Hans just announced the call for paper is open for Cloud Native Day Oslo. So we are moving a bit from so there are Kubernetes community days, and now there's also Cloud Native Days, which are a bit more informal or unofficial, but still pretty much the same communities, the same local meetups getting together. And maybe it's not called Kubernetes Community Days or KCD, but it's the same people, it's the same crowd, and there are reason why
Yeah,
we change some countries change the name, but in the end we do it. First of all, they're all volunteers still. I mean, I don't think any of those communities ever made a dime on these events, and they do it because, as I said, because it's the right thing to do. Because we feel like we need an event like this, after every meeting, constantly during the year. It's nice to have like one moment where we can all get together, and that's why we do it. And that's also in Amsterdam. There will be one in July 2025. And I
yes,
know lots of other KCD London probably is happening again.
yeah.
And there are
KCD
many,
London
many
was a
ones.
couple of weeks ago, so I talked to
Yeah,
that one, and then yeah, I know there's a bunch coming. Right, there's yeah, Shiver. If you let us know whereabouts in the Nordics you're based, I'm sure between Alessandro and myself, either
yeah.
now or after the show, we'll come back to you with a couple.
I, s-
So yeah,
I strongly suggest you actually try to help, right? So if you have time, of course, but it's a great experience.
definitely.
I've seen many people starting from like, hey, can I help? To hey, I'm an ambassador now. I'm a CNCF
But
ambassador, right?
yeah,
So after maybe a year or two, many of the friends that I made in Amsterdam and beyond, they literally went from that's how I contribute. I'm just here to help. I'm a volunteer, and then because they like it so much and they contribute so much and their contribution is valuable, they apply for a CNCF ambassador and then eventually they became one. So, and it's kind of recognition of your contribution.
yeah. Sorry, I was just looking up for something for Shiver.
Hmm.
I've actually got a couple of links. I'll post them in a second. So I know you joined Red Hat as one of the first OpenStack humans in EMEA, and you said to me that was a dream come true. Like,
Yeah,
what made that
yeah.
experience kind of so special?
Well, if you're in open source, Red Hat is kind of the mothership, right? So you there still, but at the time I remember like there were people so smart I felt so small, so humbled by, you get. They told me because of course, I'm not working there, but I asked people there. In Reddit, there used to be a IRC server, right? So I don't know if you remember IRC. That's that's pretty dope. And so there was this IRC server where you could talk to Linux kernel developers, like they're your colleagues, and you could follow all this super interesting, super deep tech conversation. And so working for that was like I had to accept. And also we were part of this. We had the catch name, the OpenStack Tiger team. So we were the first team. We were literally going into terra incognita. We were doing POCs and deploying OpenStack with very rudimentary tools compared to what we have today. There was almost no installer. It was tough, but we love the job. We love the technology. We believe in private cloud, in open source private cloud, and it was awesome. Actually, it was and my team was amazing. I was traveling the world. I mean, how not to like it? It was a formative year. And again, like I don't know, maybe I'm very lucky in my career. I was first of all, I had great managers and great colleagues, and I was lucky because after a year or so that I was there, Red Hat decided to rebase OpenShift on Kubernetes. I had no idea what me and a bunch of people, we had no idea what Kubernetes was. That was 2015 or 2016. So okay, that's interesting. Let's study this Kubernetes thing, and we started to look into it. And again, the flash, I was so struck by the just how good the technical ideas behind Kubernetes were, right? So and still are, right? The technical choices and how well it works together. Everything works together in Kubernetes, and never look back. Soon enough, we were going to these OpenStack summits, and at some point, half of the talks at OpenStack summit were about Kubernetes, right? So and then we say, okay, that's it. I mean, we can see the writing on the wall. OpenStack is great, and it powers a lot of data centers, and that's good. But I mean, that's containers is really a much better abstraction over application, right? So much better way to think in terms of how to deploy application. That's it, right? So that's it. So OpenStack, yeah, great, but OpenShift and Kubernetes is the way. And I doubled down on that, right? So
Makes sense.
kind of unfortunately the OpenStack community died down. The project is alive very well, actually. Now with the VMware Broadcom debacle, there's a resurgence in OpenStack, and I see it a lot. People are really looking into OpenStack as an alternative to VMware. I think it can only benefit the project itself because it needs some I don't know, some love. OpenStack. It's a great tool, but it's something there is just not right. It's mostly around UX and how the documentation and how the project is structured. But yeah, I think it's again, like I was lucky because I was working on something and then I found my way, and and I will always be grateful to Red Hat because it gave me the opportunity to learn all
So,
this new technology.
so you're known as a Kubestronaut. So I know what that means, but for anyone that's not listening or is listening, can you tell them what a Kubestronaut actually is?
Kubestronaut or Kubestronaut or something, strange name. It's very simple. It's a new program. It's a program. Like, of course, CNCF wants to recognize people that really believe in the value of getting certified. So if you pass 5 of the 10, actually there are 10 certifications of now.
There's 10
There are
now.
5 that are there are 10 actually. So, but if you pass the 5, they are more fundamental. So is the certified Kubernetes administrator, certified Kubernetes application developer, certified Kubernetes specialist, security specialist, and the small ones, which are the associate certified Kubernetes associate developer, I think, and the associate for security. You don't need to do them in order. You just have to have them, right? So, and automatically, once you have these 5 badges, then you are part of the Kube astronaut. It's really just like a club, right? So it's I know it doesn't feel right, but it's you belong, right? So it's they create, and it's a great idea of CNCF. They gamify, this gamify learning, which is great, right? So you want to learn, so you can get the badge, and then when you accumulate the badge, you get the super badge and the jacket, and that's it. So, but we do have channels where we discuss. We try to make other people also excited about it. And now, actually, I'm going for the super astronaut. I don't know. There's no name for it yet because I'm only missing 2 exams. I have 8. So with these 2 exams, which
Wow.
I already booked, Christopher from CNCF, he said, well, if there are only handful of people with all the 10 exams, so, and it's like it just it's I'm not very competitive, only competitive with myself, so I just want to
That's cool
get
though.
there and say, yeah, I would be like I don't know, I think he mentioned it like 3 or 4 people in the world with all 10 exams, and immediately I have to have it. I gotta have. It's like a collection, like so that like people collect like baseball cards or whatever, right? So, and we collect badges for CNCF.
Yes.
But
What
it's nice. I mean, it's
based on your experience, like what advice would you give to those pursuing these certificates like today?
hmm. Yeah. Well, there are many. First of all, try to learn in public, right? So I've seen many people like doing it in their own, in their own room, but it's most of this learning you do it together with other people. So and you share what you learn. And some of my most popular blog posts were tips and tricks of how to pass the CKS or CKD, I don't remember, because people really like to it's good to share, right? So it's not something you just learn. Look, it's not approach it more like a game, like a something nice to do, but it's not it doesn't give you all the tools you need for your career. There was a Today I was reading something on Reddit. How can I learn real life Kubernetes? It's not the exam, it's something more. You really have to have passion for learning and for technology, and then all comes from that. So it's certification are a way to a mean to an end, right? So a mean to an
Mhm.
end, but per se they don't mean too much.
Yeah.
Together, of course, like if you're a Kubernetes astronaut, means that you are committed. That's what really what comes out of having the jacket, that you are committed to learn, and that's very valuable today in today's job market, right? So it's not about what you know. This is something I learned in Microsoft. It's not you need a growth mindset, right? So it's not what you know, it's what you can learn in the
Yeah,
coming months,
definitely.
and that's the signal that's why they are so important to show that you pass certification, you have certification, because it means that you can sit down and learn a few new things, and in a way that makes you certified. It's a meta argument in a way.
So you recently became a tech lead on CNCF tag environmental sustainability this year.
Yeah,
So can you tell us like what are the goals of that role, like as in the tech lead, and also like the wider tag goals? And then obviously for those who are unaware, like maybe explain what a tag is.
yeah, of course. Yeah, so of course, like this all started at CNCF as technical advisory groups, right? So they are the Kubernetes community has its own SIGs, so the special interest groups. But at the CNCF level, there was immediately the need to institute some kind of like a SIGs for CNCF, which are called technical advisory groups. So they are groups of people people like me and you, right? So it's nothing special about us. It's just we attend the meeting and we write some white paper and some blog posts. So the technical advisory groups are meant to advise the TOC, the technical TOC stands for technical
Something chair.
what's the yeah, the organizing committee,
Committee,
right?
that's
So
it.
yeah.
Organizing committee.
So the tags advise the TOC about topics, right? So for example, there's a tag security, there's a tag runtime, there's a tag network. Those advise the COC over the various projects of the CNCF that have something to do with, for example, networking, right? So tag network takes care of projects like Istio and Icard, right? So those projects fall under, and every project in CNCF must fall under one of these tags, right? So it must be associated with one of these technical advisory groups, right? So which are, like a communities within the larger community that talk and push forward the mission of CNCF. So a couple of years ago, there was this proposal to form a new tag, the technical advisory group environmental sustainability. It's a very long name, but sometimes we call it tag MSUS or ENV. And so this was formed thanks to very influential people like Leo and Christina and so many more. We formed this tag. And what does the tag do? Produce white paper, produce blog posts, but also be the umbrella, be the home for several projects that are related to environmental sustainability of cloud native software. There's always of course, like we are just one piece of the puzzle, right? So environmental sustainability is a big topic. There's the Green Software Foundation, CNCF, very interested in the topic. But we do it from the perspective of the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. So we advise and we foster awareness about these topics within the community of CNCF. So we invite projects to look at their carbon footprint. We have a working group, so there are several working groups within the tag. One is the green review, so it looks at a project and makes an assessment of the viability of the project in terms of
Cool.
sustainability. Yeah, it's and we want to become the home, the safe place to discuss these topics within the CNCF.
Is the plan to be able to, for all CNCF projects, to understand their carbon footprint and kind of publish that somewhere on GitHub?
That's a big plan. Yeah, that's very
Nice.
ambitious. We need more people for that, so I encourage everybody to join. We publish a calendar. We just meet and discuss what's going on and what can we do to foster those objectives. So as a tech lead, of course, I'm part of the leadership, and I'm trying to talk more and make sure that people understand more about sustainability. And it's not as an afterthought, but as a feature of your project, right? So something that your project takes care of from the beginning, and can take different forms from observability of the consumption, CPU, memory, and network of your project, to different. So we also host projects like there's a project, a new one called Kate. We're trying to onboard it now. They are more like
Kepler.
that you can find them on the website. Yes, I'm very new in the role, so I'm also very learning the ropes as well.
Shiva wants to get involved. So Shiva, my suggestion to you would be reach out directly to Alessandro or myself. Alessandro is obviously the tech lead and involved in the tag. I myself am not at the moment.
The channel. There's a channel on Slack, and we meet, and that's nothing. I know people. Maybe you already know this, Shiva, but the contribution is come to the meetings, and if you can't, that's all right. Just write offline. That's also possible. That's also not everybody is available at that time every week, and we also meet in one time zone. I mean, we meet in a time that is friendly to both US and Europe, but there's more than these two regions, of course. So if you can't, either we can accommodate maybe extra meetings, but you can also just work offline, and that's it. That's how you contribute. You show up. That's the core of the contribution. There are many things we want to do. We have a GitHub roadmap as a GitHub project. We have issues. We use it to track what we need to do. And yeah, please go on and join. It's we need people. We need smart people. We need people that care. And honestly, I cannot think of any more important topic than sustainability. I mean, it's literally
Like
we should all talk about this,
get
right?
in, get involved, right? It's I'll make sure that I put it in the show notes. I'll put a direct link to the Slack channel, and I'll also add a couple of other things as well that I'll get off Alessandro. But yeah, just get involved. And like, I think the important thing to note, and I always say this to a lot of people that I speak to, is you can just sit there in silence and listen for the first couple of meetings, right? And then once you start to feel comfortable and confident and start to get to know people, then feel free to kind of open up, have an opinion, and get involved in the conversation. Like we're all doing this to drive the goal forward, right? And sometimes having those disagreements and having some awkward conversations is part of that, and sometimes it's very much a highly collaborative, everybody's singing from the same hymn sheet type of conversation, but both are definitely valuable.
Yes,
so,
indeed. And in the end, it's the people, right? So, and
exactly.
that's all we want to.
Exactly. And they've got some cool people that are in that tag. I won't name drop people because I'll miss others. But yeah, they have some cool people working in there. So moving on from CNCF tag, like I've seen this Kubespaces all over, all over Twitter, and there's a website, and like tell me about this cool new project, right? And like, how did the concept of namespace as a service come about?
Yeah, it's I keep it a bit under the wrap because I'm not a really social media person, so I don't know if I should post more. Maybe I should. I don't have a social media manager or marketing person yet. We're just a bunch of developers thinking how to solve this problem. So I thought long and hard, what is this? Where is the value in Kubernetes? Is in the network? Is in the pods? Where is actually the where people find value? Why they need Kubernetes, right? So what is the container orchestration platform for? And I've seen it in my work, like in my clients, and I've seen it so many times. Putting together a platform engineering team and building a platform, spending a lot of time and effort into the platform. But in the end, all this is instrumental to give developers what they need to do their work, right? So that's where the money is. That's where the value for your customer is. Developers making features, fixing bugs, but delivering that value to the customer. For that, of course, they need containers and pods and so on. But what they really need, how they interface with that, is the mythical namespace, right? So, so I thought, like, why don't we put the namespace at the core experience of a developer, and we abstract away all the complexity, because Kubernetes, it is complex, right? So it is something that it intimidating, right? So it's so big and so complex, so many moving parts. All I need is a namespace, right? So I think I should make a jingle with the song, right? So all I need is a namespace. So just give me that.
I can help you with
and right, so yeah, I can do it for you. But and it's pretty much what also, I mean, the other ideas, like why developers love Heroku so much, right? So they absolutely love it until, of course, Salesforce brought it down, and I mean, it made it a bit more less friendly, because they can deploy what they need when they need it without talking to anyone, without talking to a platform team, without even, they are more empowered to do what they need without friction. So I thought, okay, let's think about this, right? So let's make a platform that offers namespace as a service, because that's what the developers need. I kind of call it Heroku with Kubernetes API, because of course Heroku API are great, but they are bespoke, right? So you need to be in that platform. Kubernetes API is the de facto standard API to deploy anything in the cloud and on-premise, of course. So combine Kubernetes API with the idea of a namespace, and bam, you have Kubespaces in a way. We are about to launch. I mean, to friends and family for now. I mean, it's something that just want to. I'm not sure the direction. Probably. I mean, we are at Web Summit today in Lisbon, also to promote it and to find potential investors or people that are interested in the journey. But the idea is that to give developers what they need, and that's it. Abstract away, keep all the complexity out of the epic path or golden path for developers to deploy the application. So we maintain the infrastructure, we abstract away. It's still Kubernetes, but you don't see what's going on. You don't want to see. You don't need to deal with the intricacies of running a cluster in AKS, a cluster in Azure, and a cluster in AWS, and a cluster here, a cluster there. There are no clusters. Actually, we banned the word cluster in the old platform, so there's no mention of clusters. But it's like serverless, right? So there's a server somewhere, right? So it cannot be magic. Amazon manage it for me, and I just consume what I need. In the case of serverless, Lambda is the execution, the function that I'm giving them. But there's a big debate, of course. Serverless, it's been promising, to take over for a decade now, and still here, because it's too much abstraction, right? So I want to find the right place, the right level of abstraction, and I think the namespace can be pretty much the right level of abstraction. A place like a box where you can put your pods, you use all the Kubernetes API. So you define your application as deployments, services, and so on. And then the platform is out of the way. It's an abstraction. That's what we are building. It's almost ready, of course. Kubespaces.io. I have a great team of people, of course, working on it. I just do the infrastructure and a bit of coding here and there, but I hope to find more people that are excited by the idea and they want to know more, of course.
Yeah, like when you go live, let's get you on a Project Spotlight episode and see it in real life. I'd be excited.
I'll give you a namespace, of course.
Yeah,
I mean, it's well, we have a concept of tenant as a collection of namespaces, right? So that's but in the end, the developers will get his or her own namespace so they can deploy. And like Heroku, we have this nice little trick in a way. So Heroku, you do Heroku deploy, and then you get this URL where you can just immediately see your application. And we have the same thing. So you deploy your deployments, and we use all open source technology like Gateway API, and we started using Envoy Gateway. We moved to Istio for some reason, but in the end, there's a Flux in there that does all this automation. It's all based on open source, and you deploy something and you get an URL that gives you access to your application without even thinking of external DNS, and which they're all running under the hood. Just that you don't have to manage them.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where that goes. So yeah, with so many years of kind of open source technology behind you, like how do you see the cloud native ecosystem kind of evolving in the next couple of years? I've got my own opinions, but I'm kind of intrigued to hear yours.
Yeah. One thing that really excited me today, because I give a presentation just last week about WebAssembly, and I didn't really look into it that hard, but now I did, and I think it's amazing. I'm thinking of recompiling the Kubespaces into WebAssembly just because I can, right? So because it's Golang, so I can, so why not? But I think it's pretty nice. There's also an angle of sustainability, right? So if we have binary formats executed smaller, more efficient, there's a gain there in terms of consumption and sustainability. So I think it's pretty interesting field, and for me it was like arcane magic. What is this WebAssembly thing? But then I started looking into it, and I thought like, I
Did
understand this.
did
I mean,
you
it's just
do you see my LinkedIn post where I did it over the weekend, last weekend?
no.
Anyway,
I
yeah,
will check it out.
I did something similar. I think from my perspective, I think the ecosystem in general kind of is risking like becoming a victim of its own success. Like while Kubernetes won the container orchestration wars, I think we're now facing this kind of complexity crisis where like teams are just drowning in like what tools do I choose, or like what certificates do I go after, or like what's the best abstraction layer to go on. And like I expect there to be some kind of counter movement towards kind of simplified infrastructure, right? We talk about Kubespaces like you're doing. I think like potentially like even in like a post Kubernetes era, and I'm sorry, but I do honestly think that that's going to happen. Um, where we return to a bit more opinionated, streamlined platforms that kind of hide all of this complexity. And I think yourself and there's a number of other tools that are kind of doing that as well. And I think
That's a good one.
yeah, and I think the CNCF landscape, and I was talking to Joe Bader and Lachlan and Ivanson about this, right? Is it's kind of become overwhelming. Like you've got like tons of service messages. Can't even say that. Service mesh options, I should have said,
Yeah.
and like countless observability tools, right? And then this I'm worried that the fragmentation is kind of unsustainable, both from like an engineering perspective and an environmental perspective. Like we need to have consolidation and maybe a little bit less choice. Um, yeah, I could wax lyrical about this for ages, but that's kind of my kind of 2p worth opinion on where we're at.
You got a point there, of course. On the other hand, this is an ecosystem is beautiful because it's so big and so varied, right? So
It's
it
true.
reflects the diversity of us that we form, the people of the ecosystem, right?
True.
So it's interesting. And OpenStack it's not dead, it didn't die, but was heavily limited in adoption because of scarcity of talent and skills.
Yeah.
That's why programs like Kubernetes Astronaut is so important, right? So to popularize skills, to make them available to more people. So I think that's a good thing, and we are solving that problem this way, like getting more people certified. We need to give them more production experience, which is hard. But I don't see the same problem of OpenStack. But and one thing is that because CNCF sits in the middle of this big interest and big company, so tries to equalize and make everybody happy. So that's also something that was better is better compared to OpenStack ecosystem, but it is maybe too big. It is overwhelming, especially you're right. Observability is insane, like it is.
Yeah,
I
and now they're
can't
talking about
choose the
observability
tool.
2. They're talking about observability 2.0 now, which is like a redefined. And I'm like, come on, there's like there's enough tools of observability 1.0. I'm all for moving forward, right, and changing things. But like as somebody, I was having this conversation with Lachlan, right? As somebody new joining the ecosystem, it's totally and utterly overwhelming because it's like, where do you even start? And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's a piece that we need to be careful about. But maybe I should write a blog post about this.
Yeah, and honestly, like all these tools are amazing, by the way.
For
But
sure.
I don't really need to know all my syscalls at the eBPF level. Like give me a break, give me a big picture. Sometimes going too deep into the tech, it is detrimental. It is anti-pattern.
Definitely.
Tech is here to help us,
Solve business
delivering
problems.
values to the customers. This is the big lesson of DevOps, right? So it's not about the process, the tools, it's about the people. People are first. Like,
Yep.
thank you. I have all these amazing tools, but the purpose is missing. Like, I'm doing this because I want to deliver faster value, more value to the customer. That still should be king in this, and this is the DevOps learning. I think, and we should apply that in cloud native.
Yeah, so we've got kind of 5 minutes left. Does anyone that's listening have any questions for Alessandro or myself? And whilst we're waiting for some to come in, like I'll start off with a kind of light-hearted one. So what's the plan for Christmas?
Christmas, I go back to my hometown, of course, to stay with my family. Yeah, I'm Italian, so for family it's important, and yeah, that's what we do. I still, my father is old, my brother lives in Berlin, my family is here, so we try to get together. So for one time a year, that's good enough.
Cool. I can't answer this because it's about Kubespaces. So Sheva asks, from a DevOps perspective, can Kubespaces integrate with CI/CD tools?
Yeah, that's a good one, and that's why we choose to not be opinionated. It's Kubernetes. If you have a tool that works with Kubernetes, GitHub Actions or Jenkins or whatever, that's it. Unmodified Kubernetes API server. So it feels like it. You interact with Kubernetes, then you can interact with Kubespace. It's the same thing, and by design, by choice, because otherwise it's a mess, right? So you make your own ecosystem, and then what? You have to onboard people. No, we just give you an API endpoint of talks Kubernetes, and then just have fun with it.
Within reason.
Yeah, I think it's what the whole idea started by I think developers love Kubernetes. Like, so because they feel the excitement, right? So they see Kubernetes. Developers, the regular Kubernetes, the regular developer want to be in the ecosystem, but it doesn't want to manage, servers and clusters and network. They can't get enough of. I mean, they really don't want to touch that. So what if we can give them what they need without the complexity? That's a win-win. It's also because the managed Kubernetes from cloud providers is not managed at all, right? So it's lightly managed. It's like, is your cluster? Yes, you can upgrade with the click of a button, but that's it. I don't tell you what to do with it. I cannot help you with the. Rightly so. I mean, it's big cloud providers have big customer. They cannot possibly manage down to the level to make it useful. It's up to you, the customer.
Yeah,
And that's the space where Kubespaces gets in, right? So between this gap of knowledge between the big cloud providers, the providers of managed Kubernetes, and the users, right? So that's the gap there, and that's where we try to put ourselves,
Definitely. So yeah, with that, I want to say, Alessandro, thanks for sharing your journey with us today, and thanks for spending some time with me. Like, we've been friends for a while, right? But we've never actually sat down and probably spoke.
And I'll try to be more active in cloud
for an hour.
Cloud Native Club. It's I was one of the first joiners. I think
You
I was
were.
number, I don't know, 80, 90 or something.
You were.
Yeah. So I promise I will be more active in. I want to move, as I say, like before, like from content consumer to content creator, and your platform, I think it's the best way to share, because there's a lot of interesting people there.
Yeah, there's 110 now, which is wild considering we've only
Nice.
been going like a couple of months. So that's great. So yeah, as you probably know, we have a tradition on this show where each guest leaves a question for the next guest without knowing who they are. So I'll make sure and ensure that I get an email over to you to do that. I'm not going to tell you who the next guest is because that will spoil it. But yeah, before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share today?
No. So if you are in Lisbon, of course, hit me up. I'm here all week, and it's pretty awesome. Well, next week we have SRE Days in Amsterdam. It's also a pretty nice small conference about site reliability engineering. I'm not talking there. I'm the host. I'm the the chaperone, which is a new role for me. And then I'm going to Greece for OpenConf. And if you ever come to Amsterdam, hit me up. It's a beautiful place. We'll make a meetup for you.
He'll take you for street waffles.
Of course, yeah. And fries.
And fries, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And I'll if you send me a bunch of links over, I'll put them in the show notes so other people can get involved. But yeah, until next time, we'll be
Cool.
here next week, next Monday with another guest. But until then, yes, stay cloud native, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you so much. Hey,
Bye bye.
have a good day.